Hey, what's up? I'm Ryan Stewman, and welcome to the Hardcore Closer podcast. I'm the founder of hardcorecloser.com, and this podcast is all about helping you close more deals. And look, whether you're selling cars, homes, financial services, consulting, whatever it is, gym memberships, solar, cars that drive themselves, like whatever it is that you're selling out there, I'm going to help you increase your closing ratios. I'm going to teach you ways through this podcast and other episodes how to generate leads. Because look, I believe that you should charge premium fees because the salesperson is grossly underpaid in the modern marketplace. I mean, they're trying to replace us with robots. Anyway, hey, welcome to episode 49 THC podcast. I'm glad that you're here. If this is your first time to ever come on this show, ever listen to anything, well, the good news is there's at least 48 other episodes around. If you like it, stick around, enjoy the rest of the content. Here's what I ask if this isn't the first episode, like if you've listened to more than one episode of THC podcast and you haven't left a review over at iTunes, man, I need you to chip in. I need you to do your part. I need you to go over to iTunes and look, it's not easy. I'm going to show you, those of you that watch us stream live on YouTube, I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. If I can find the actual icon stuff here there it is. And so like you got to go to the podcast app, right? There's like the podcast. Then you got to hit the search button. And then once you hit the search button, you got to go in there and under search, you got to hit THC podcast. And what happens when it comes up, you can see I'm the number 2 thing right there. Then once you touch my podcast logo, you touch my podcast, right in the middle of the screen is reviews, and you can leave a review. For those of you on Android, just leave some comments on this video on YouTube, and I'll appreciate it. Or you can share my stuff on the blog site, hardcorecloser.com. If you go to closerpodcast.com, you can go right to the Hardcore Closer blog in the section where all of the podcasts are. How about that shit, right? I'd be hooking y'all up. There's even the podcasts I've done with other people too. So look, there is the Ohio loan gal. I know her. I will not give up her anonymity. Anyway, I'm not going to tell. I know who the Ohio loan gal is. She is a client of mine in Ohio. It says 5 stars, of course. Thank you, Ohio loan gal. But it says, if you want to advance your career, listen and buy Ryan's training. No matter how long you've been in sales, you'll learn valuable information. His info does not only apply to young, hip salespeople, even old, hip superstars will love his stuff. Hey, you're giving up who you are. You're giving up who you are. We know who you are, Ohio loan gal. The Ohio loan gal, Lori Saucier has been, there went your anonymity when you said even old hip superstars love his stuff. When you gave it up, Lori, I had to expose you, but Lori's been a client of mine for a while. She's awesome. And she's like she calls herself, she's a self-proclaimed. We didn't put her out there, but she calls herself the tribe grandma. So let's jump into this episode here. And let's talk about why salespeople don't follow up with prospects. Man, this shit drives me crazy. And it drives me crazy when I go and I consult other companies and they're having this problem. It drives me crazy within my own company because inevitably you would think that somebody working for the Hardcore Closer would be a follow-up monster. That is not the case all the time. I've got some great people. If you've ever come into contact with Roxanne, you know she's a follow-up beast. And I've got some good people on my team. But, dude, I mean, like when it comes to follow-up, salespeople consistently drop the ball. And it's frustrating because there's really 6 major reasons, and I'm going to talk about that today. Those 6 reasons, I'll break them down in this episode. But salespeople, they give up on leads way too easy. And I don't mean like, after somebody tells you no and you're like forcefully following up with them, being annoying and stuff like that. They just don't get creative. And anytime you're not creative, you're complacent. And then when you're not complacent, when you're complacent, you're operating from a comfort zone type of operation. You're not going to do anything extraordinary while living in the ordinary, right? And so, thinking about that, people, if you don't have some kind of extraordinary follow-up, then you have ordinary follow-up, and ordinary follow-up's boring for both ends, the person doing it and the person receiving it. So let's talk about these 6 reasons today. So number 1 is most salespeople don't have a follow-up system, period. Most people don't even have a sales system. Who are we kidding? One of the first things we do at Break Free Academy Live is, I can hear noise in my headphones. That was weird. I think you're unmuted, producer. Producer, you're falling on your job. You've unmuted the button, you imbecile. Anyway, so this is what gets people fired, man. Fuck around. Just kidding. I think you're unmuted though, Rob. But anyway, so like most people don't even have a sales system. We go over to breakfreeacademy.com. You can see our setup, and you can apply to be a member of Break Free Academy. But at Break Free Academy Live, one of the first things that I have people do is put together a sales process, a system, so that when people come in And like, so say you hire somebody else, you don't have to wing it coaching them, and you have a detailed documented process. And when you can take the process and you can remove the emotion from it, and you just have a process that you follow, it makes things a hell of a lot easier. The same thing happens for follow-up. Most people don't have a follow-up system. One of my clients and realtor slash broker slash extraordinaire slash came from nothing, started from the bottom, now he's here, Brian Norvell, teaches a method called the 3, 3, and 3 method. And I like that because it's easy to remember. And you know, Brian is really good at, I see messages every day where people are messaging where they have gotten in touch with people because of Brian, or Brian is the actual one that got in touch with these leads. So I know he's really good at it. I see social proof every single day. But what he does is he makes 3 contacts a day for the first 3 days, because we know that in order for someone to buy from you, they need to be familiar. And they need to be familiar with, they need to know, like, and trust you, right? Like, we can all just say that that's a true statement. And so in order for someone to know, like, they know, like, and trust you, in order for someone to know you, you have to be in front of them. And it usually takes anywhere from 8 to 12 touches to create that familiarity to where they know you. And so those 8 to 12 touches, those follow-up, that's huge. And most people, they try the one call closer, they bolt. And so when you've got 8 to 12 touches that you've got to make, if you can make 9 of those in the first 3 days, you're way ahead of the schedule of someone who's emailing once a day, or someone who is just simply sending out direct mail, or whatever the case, trying to get familiar with the prospect, or trying to get the prospect familiar with them. Instead, you put yourself in a position to, like, run through that super fast. They're in an airplane with props, you're in a jet, you know? And so here's how the 3-3-3 method works. According to Brian, again, this is his shit. If you have questions, hit him up about it. He is one of our coaches, though, inside of the tribe. He does coach the real estate people inside the tribe. But he says that he sends 1 text message, 1 voicemail, preferably slide broadcast, because people don't really answer the phone these days anyway. Slide dial, 1 text message, 1 phone call, and 1 email every day for 3 days. So he's hitting them on 3 different mechanisms, 3 different communication platforms over the course of 3 days. It's 9 of those 12 follow-ups, and we've already passed 1. We've gone over 1. Past the 8 to 12 is what we're going to need. We've got 9 right there knocked out. That kind of system is what you need for follow-up, you know, and you need to have the system laid down to, like, okay, on day 1, they get this email, this text message, this voicemail. On day 2, they get this email, this text message, this voicemail. If you join things like breakfreeacademy.com/entourage, you can get a login to Break Free Academy Digital, and we teach you how to put all that shit on autopilot anyway. Number 2, they have new leads that distract them. Man, it's hard to keep a salesperson following up with somebody when they're getting bombarded with new leads. I'll tell you a story. In 2015, I hired quite a few salespeople. I had like 14 salespeople. I was really trying to do it big. I had a bunch of leads, and I still do, but I have gotten smarter with them. I've let technology sort them out a lot better. But I had like 14 salespeople, and of those 14 salespeople, they were getting like 10 or 15 leads a day. We were just like, we were swimming in leads, hundreds a day. And so they were getting 10 or 15 leads a day. On day 1, that's awesome. You call 10 people. On day 2, you call 10 people plus the previous 10 people. Day 3, you call 10 people plus the previous 10 people. Now you're having conversations with 10 people. By the time day 9 rolls around, they were bombarded with leads, and they were fucking them off, and they weren't calling people back, and they didn't give 2 shits about this, that, or the other. And man, I ended up having to let almost all of the, actually, matter of fact, there's only 1 of them left out of that whole crew. Roxanne's still with me. And the thing is, I had to scale back the leads. I had to put software in place to where now my guys get like 5 leads a day, maybe 10 for some of the folks that have been around for a while and know how to do this, because the 10 that we send, because we have put the technology in place, are usually people that stick their hand up and say, hey, I've got some serious questions, and if you can answer them, I'll buy from you today, that type of stuff. If not, then we have our slide broadcast going out, our text messages going out, emails coming out from me. We're posting on people in front of people on Facebook and everything else until people become a more qualified lead, because that's what we're looking for at this point in the game. But the thing is, if you bombard your sales staff, like more leads is not always the answer. I have a client, Brandy Whitmire. She's one of the best loan officers I have ever seen operate a computer. Man, she plays the computer like Stevie Wonder plays the keyboard, man. She has got this thing down. And I watch her at these events that we come to. She's like, she doesn't even look at the keyboard, man. And she's just like watching the event, but just typing away like a stenographer in court or something like that. But she manages a database of about 15,000 prospects that are clients and prospects that she's had over the course of the, let's say, 15 years she's been in business or so. and she doesn't get new leads. She just works that database, and she does easily 10 plus, sometimes 15 million a month in mortgage volume. She is a major player, all from mining her database, all because the follow-up. My thing that I learned from her is, and she's awesome, dude. She's like super cool. But she says, keep following up until you get one of two fingers, either the thumbs up or the middle finger. Man, I love that shit. So, hey, there you go. I'm giving away all my clients' secrets here on this show. Right? I don't think they're secrets there. I just have awesome people that I'm working with, like Brian and Brandy. So number 3, salespeople are scared of no. Man, what do you? A lot of people do, man. And really, it's not even no. Like, we hate the word no. Nobody likes it. No is a universal word, except for in German, it's like nein, which doesn't mean anyway. But like, no is a universal word. Like, everybody knows what that means. And we don't like to hear it because it's a denier. Like, we've been denied of something we want if we hear no. But oftentimes, salespeople will do everything they can to avoid the no in the wrong way. Now, there's 2 ways to avoid the no. Number 1 is like what I do in my sales copies and stuff like that is I avoid the no by handling the objections up front and demonstrating the value up front, so I'm least likely to get a no from them. A lot of salespeople do the exact opposite. They sell all the fancy stuff. They overpromise. They have no way they can deliver what they've said they're going to because they're scared of hearing the word no. And a lot of them will even not follow up because they don't want to hear no. It's like, that guy's not going to buy. I don't want to hear him say no. I'm just not going to follow up with him. Like, this is not a strange phenomenon. This is something that happens a lot. Salespeople are scared of hearing no, and they will either do one of 2 things. They'll either handle the objections and show the value up front to make sure the prospect doesn't tell them no, or most people fall into this category is they'll do anything to avoid being told no, and that includes not following up. Listen, you're a professional mind changer. That's what we are in sales. We are professional mind changers. And even if you get a no, oftentimes it means, no, I'm uncertain of the value here. I need to know more. And so with that being said, like, you got to make sure that you're not scared of no. And if you're going to follow up with somebody, no's are going to be part of it. Matter of fact, you're probably going to get a lot more no's than you do yeses. I know that we got about a 14% closing ratio from all of our leads. Now, remind you, a lot of them we don't talk to. We let technology fill up, and we still got a 14% conversion rate. On the internet, 1% is amazing. So the fact that we do 14 is pretty damn heavy over here on the sales side. The reason why I mention that is, like, we do everything that we can to avoid no as well, but we're trying to deliver massive amounts of value on the front end so that we're not following up. Like, all the people who say no, if you follow up with them, eventually they'll say yes. That's a proven fact. So it's my part to, even if I hear no, I put technology in place. But even if you're on the phone with somebody and you hear no, there's people that try to pitch me and close me all the time through the internet, phone, and stuff like that. And I'll tell them no, and they'll have a really good comeback for it. And it'll change my mind, right? And that's what you are. You're supposed to be a professional mind changer. So number 4, you haven't earned the right to follow up. This is huge. When people hit me up and they're like, hey, just circling back around, like, this is the worst thing ever when it comes to sales. And this is like getting all too familiar. This is like becoming the go-to thing, and it's really, really, really frustrating. And it looks shitty on our industry. So if this is you, listen to me, take heed of this, and don't do it again. But so here's the thing, like, people will send a message and they'll say something and they'll be demanding, right? So somebody will make a phone call and they'll start making demands, or they'll send a message on Facebook and they'll start making demands, or they send a email out and they start making demands. And by making demands, I mean something to the tune of, hey man, what's up? Make some room for me on your friends list. Hey man, what's up? Here's this program that I sell. I'd like for you to help me push it on the affiliate program. Hey man, here's this, like, those are the types that, like, they're being very selfish, and they're just hitting you with the, like, do something for me. And oftentimes when this comes from people, like in my inbox, from people that I don't know, that aren't even my friends on Facebook and stuff, they're just people. It's like, hey man, do me a favor. Hey man, do this. Hey man, I've got a specific set of instructions for you, even though I have never done anything to increase any value in your life whatsoever. It's like the what can you do for me attitude, right? And so when those people follow up with me, which oftentimes they do, they're salespeople, and so I tell them, I ignore them, and they circle back around, they follow back up with me again, they catch me on the phone, or they email, or the DM, or whatever the hell. Like, usually they say the same thing. Hey man, did you get a chance to look at that video link I sent you about whatever it is that I sell? Don't do that, right? Offer some value. I teach my salespeople this. It's like, hey man, when you're talking to somebody, send them a blog post that's relevant to their situation. If they say they're in mortgages, send them a blog post or a video from my YouTube account that's related to mortgage. Say, hey, if you can uncover their problem and they're not ready to buy yet and you need to follow up with them, that's awesome. Send them a video, send them a blog post, tell them, hey, here's some stuff right now that'll help you out if you'll implement it. It's pertinent to your problem. It could provide a solution that you're looking for. Meanwhile, I'll circle back around in a week to see where we can go from here. And see, what we're doing is we have added some value. A lot of people, they don't add value. They just say, hey, what's happening? Hey, man, did you get that? Hey, did you watch this? Can you do me a favor? Check this out. Buy my shit. And that's not what works. Like, we live in the me economy. Like, people are very self-centered right now in the world thanks to social media and everything else. So you've got to play into that. You don't want to go in there and punch them in the nose. You want to go in there and pull the judo move and make them all flip around and tumble and all that stuff, right? It's like so much easier to flip somebody than punch them in the nose. And so what you want to do is you want to go in there and you want to flip somebody. It's like if they're concerned with their self, if they're self-absorbed, which most people are, that's pretty easy for you to step in there and say, hey, here's some even more cool stuff that's all about you. And that's how you earn the right to follow up. But so when you're consistently giving people value and you're consistently giving them things that helps them better, they actually embrace and welcome your follow-up. So something to consider. Number 5, they don't want to seem desperate or pushy. Chances are, if you don't want to seem desperate, it's because you are desperate. Let's just let that sit for a second. As I drink a nice sip from my Yeti with my Bulletproof coffee. Because coffee is for closers. Bulletproof coffee is for bulletproof closers, right? It would only make logical sense. But so a lot of salespeople, they're scared to come off as pushy, right? Well, pushy people that are scared to be pushy are pussies. Let's just say that, right? Get that out clear. That rhymes. It's awesome. You'll remember that for the rest of your life. People that don't want to be pushy are pussies. Now let's talk about the desperation side of things. The salesperson's ego is delicate. We rely so much on our ego so much, and the confidence that comes from it and everything else. We'll do damn near anything to avoid damaging it. Us salespeople, we hate to look desperate or needy, right? No one ever closed a deal by begging. Beggars want free stuff. You got to pay the cost to close the sale. The ego can cost the salesman a fortune. But here's the thing. Follow-up doesn't have to make you seem desperate. And truth is, the prospects want to feel like you want to do business with them. You think about the last time that you were followed up with somebody. So I bought a car a few days ago for Lindsay. I don't buy cars. I think buying cars is a terrible idea. I lease cars. And especially since I only, drive about 7,000 miles a year. I don't drive much. I work from home and live in an area where everything around me is everything I could possibly want within 5 miles. And for convenience sake, stores, all that good stuff. And so I leased the car for Lindsay, and the guy followed up with me that I leased the car from 3 days in a row. And each time he was never desperate. He was never pushy. Each time he said, hey, man, here's the next steps. The first time he followed up with me, he gave me the application. Hey, let's take the steps to move forward. The next time he followed up with me, he said, is it okay if we run your credit report and put together some numbers? The next time he followed up with me after that, he gave me some numbers to look at before I came in and closed the deal with him. He might have been desperate. He told me he's having a rougher month than normal. I think I fixed that for him. I think I sent him 5 referrals, help him out there. But hey, you know what? If you're a good salesman to me, I want to be good to you. I give every salesman that comes over to my house or that I do business with copies of my book. There was a window guy that came over here from Window World the other day. I bought $16,000 worth of windows from him. And I saw in my group yesterday, Sales Talk with Sales Pros, that somebody else bought a similar ticket worth of, my house has a shit ton of windows, but someone else bought a similar price package of windows from the guy. And so it's because my referral, I know that Ralph, the guy that sold me the Infinity at Grubbs Infinity in Grapevine, already sold like 3 or 4 cars, maybe even 5. I know that there was 5 people that hit me up from me posting about them. So, hey, I want to give back. But back to the story here. The people that are afraid to be appear desperate or pushy usually are desperate or pushy. And I want you to think about that. It's like, if you add value, if you just make them take the next step, it doesn't have to come. You appear desperate when you say things like, hey, man, have you looked at my video? Hey, man, can you do me a favor? Hey, man, like when you come across with that shit, that's how you look desperate. And pushy is when, like, to me, pushy is when they absolutely don't want what you have. And you're trying to force your way on them. Like, you're trying to sell them a fucking Nissan and they want an Infinity. And they're like, no, bro, I want an Infinity. They're like, but this Nissan. Right. I think that's like pushy, and that is annoying. But most people classify pushy, and like I said, people that are afraid to be pushy or pussies, as this like this needing, like this needful follow-up. They think being pushy is just following up with somebody. They think being pushy is just asking for business. And if you're scared to do those things, if you think that's pushy, you'll never make it. Number 6, this is the biggest fucking deal to me, man, is they didn't pay for the lead. And so if the salesperson doesn't pay for the lead themselves, they usually won't follow up with them. Let me give you an example. When I worked for TexasLending.com, big mortgage company here in Texas, they're still around, and a cool organization. When I worked there, we didn't have to buy our own leads. They did the lead gen and they provided the leads to us, and all we had to do was be salespeople. It was a freaking awesome job. And I really liked working there. I really did. I liked the culture and all that stuff. There was a cool place. And so, and the owner's an interesting fella, right? It's a good place to work. Anyway, so, or at least it was when I worked there. But the guys that worked there, they didn't pay for the leads. So the company generated leads. They run ads on TV, the radio, the internet, SEO, pay-per-click, Facebook, all that stuff. And they have really good media buyer, and they get a ton of leads that come in. And the salesmen in there that didn't pay for them, they just treated them like, hey, there was more where that one's coming from. I didn't pay for this shit. It doesn't hurt my pocket whether the company spends $300 grand a month in advertising or not. I'm going to get my leads, and they just ignore them. Meanwhile, I treated these leads as if I paid for them myself, and I closed 25 to 30 of them every single month. That's a lot of mortgages, y'all. The reason why I did that was because I treated every lead as if it cost me that money, my portion of that. Now, today, when my guys that work for me, I tell them, hey, man, you see the amount of money that I am dropping into these leads. You see the cost that I'm putting into our advertising. This is stuff that's coming out of your paycheck. You're paying for these leads, right? And I don't charge them directly, but I'm saying, like, this company, if we're paying for these leads and we don't get our money back, then somebody's got to go. And so you're paying in one way or another. But here's the thing. If you're lucky enough to get leads handed to you, you got to work the hell out of them. Because here's the thing. If you have no leads, you got to go out and you got to generate your own leads, and you get a hot lead from a referral group or a networking group or a friend or family or whatever, you follow up and work that lead to death, do you not? But yet when we get leads from companies like Wells Fargo or Texas Lending or Bank of America or Movement Mortgage or Remax hands us over a lead, or, you know, the Grubbs Infinity hands somebody over a lead, oftentimes the salesperson ignores them because they're like, it's not my dollars. And oftentimes the salesperson doesn't even realize how many dollars go into generating leads. Shit, this month alone, I spent $14,000 on Facebook. Now that may seem like a lot to some of you. It may seem like peanuts to some of you internet marketers. You're like, damn, you only spent that much. I'm really good at it. We generated 6,000 leads this month for 14 grand. We made quite a few sales too. So it's a good, I'm sorry, not 6,000, 3,000. So we're looking at about $2 a lead, which is really good for us. And we can't really handle any more than that. And especially since we've been doing that for a while. But with my salespeople, it's like, hey, we are paying for these leads. I'm paying for them. You're paying for them. And if you start treating these things like it's the only lead you got and that you got to work this in order to get paid on it, you'll close it. What most salespeople do is they're just like, you know what? I'll get some more tomorrow. Or people are scared. They're like, I don't know where the lead came from or the process it went through, so I'm just not going to do business with it. I see it happen all the time. A lot of people in the tribe, they complain. They're like, hey, I build these funnels and I get leads from the funnels and I get it to the people on my team, and then they don't even follow up with them. Hell, sometimes they don't even call them. And man, you know, it's on partly behalf of the lazy salesperson. You know, the 80-20 rule. There's 20% of you out there listening to this wanting to better your life. There's 80% of people in the sales industry and really on earth that are just miserable and don't want to do things the right way and aren't set up for success. And that's just part of it. Don't be like that. So let me recap with you. Number one reason why salespeople don't follow up with leads and prospects is they don't have a follow-up system. I talked about the 3, 3, and 3 program where you get a text, email, and a voicemail every day for 3 days so that you can hurry up. Go ahead and take the time and lay out a sales process. It'll make your life so much easier. Number 2, they have new leads to distract them. So like every day, if you get new leads, you probably don't care about yesterday's leads too much. It's just part of it. Number 3, scared of no. Salespeople will do, so there's 2 types of salespeople. The salespeople will do anything to avoid the no. And there's 2 types of no avoidance. Number 1 is the people that will handle objections and demonstrate value up front, so they're less likely to be told no. Then there's people that will cower and run and be scared to death and do everything not to hear the word no, which means they won't follow up. Number 4, they haven't earned the right to follow up. Telling somebody to buy your shit and repeatedly asking them if they are going to buy your shit does not earn you the right to ask them to buy your shit. Just PSA there, folks. Number 5, they don't want to seem desperate or pushy. Remember, people that are afraid to seem pushy are pussies, and pussies are broke. You don't want to be desperate? Give them some value. See previous number find out more about that. Number 6, they didn't pay for the lead, right? If it ain't coming out of my pocket, I'm not tripping about it. Man, treat every lead as if it costs you, treat every lead as if you had to pay for it directly and it was your last dollar and you got to get it back. Your life will be good. Hey, we still got a few copies of my book, Elevator to the Top, to give away. I think we have like 1,500 left. So hop on over to elevatortothetop.com and grab a free paperback copy of my book before we run out. Once we run out, we're going to take that offer down altogether. So far, I think we've given away 3,500. So it's pretty cool to think that we've given away that many books. It's elevatortothetop.com. Also, make sure that you, if you're watching this live on YouTube, you can go to hcwebinar.com. I'm doing a live webinar at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time today, hcwebinar.com. If it's not today, if you missed that one, then there will be a new date up on the page when you arrive there. So, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you check me out on Facebook. Go over to clixo.com/closer, CLYXO.com/closer. You can connect with me all over my social media and everything else, because I don't want you to follow me, right? I want to be your leader. How about that? So how about that? Catch me outside. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for listening. Make sure you leave a review on iTunes, and make sure you tell somebody that you know in sales about this program. And we'll see you next week. We're doing these live on YouTube, by the way, every single Tuesday, somewhere around 9 o'clock, depending on when I get done with the call from my sales team previous to that, in case you're wanting to come back. Later.